Hello again, I'm David Colonel Garland. I'm speaking to you from Lancaster University in England. And what I want to now look at is actually looking at university, particularly say year one, undergraduate first years. So, as we can see, we've already got Syd the Snake up here. And now Syd the Snake is turned into a first year undergraduate snake. And I've broken obviously down a British term. A British year is usually broken down into 3 terms, and we have the kind of the what I call the autumn term, spring, and summer term. Most of these are divided into 10 weeks, but obviously you can measure it according to your own terms in your own universities. Anyway, the big thing with planning, especially in the first year at university, is that you've made a big jump from school, sixth form, from A-levels. So we're talking about this jump from school and sixth form, A-levels, GCSEs into undergraduate first year at university. But in some ways this could still be possibly used in a sixth form college. Anyway, this I've numbered 1 to 10 for the weeks before Christmas. And as you can see here, I put A, B and C, little flags. Now, let's say for example I've got 3 essays, I'm doing say 3 subjects, and I've got an essay each that has to be in by week 10, just before the holidays begin. So, the first thing to do, obviously, is to find out as quick as possible what those questions are that have been assigned and set by your course tutor. And I always say try and get them if you can, make them work, to get them by week 2, okay? So then you've got kind of 8 weeks to do your work. Now, the way of breaking this down is that, so for example, what I try to do here is when I tell my students is possibly if I've got 3 essays coming up before week 10, I will begin to kind of break down my weeks for research. So let's say example in week 3 I may have start researching essay 1, essay A, week 4, B, week 5 I'll start looking at C. Then I will start then beginning to, after then I start again by beginning to write the first draft of A, so I'm now into week 6, week 6 up here, so A, B, C. So hopefully by the end of those, by week 8, week 9, I've got my essays written, but I've done the research beforehand. Okay? And what some people do, if they can get the essays early enough, is actually to have 1 or 2 weeks before that, let's say starting in week 2, so you've got more time to do second drafts. Say by week 9 you can actually break it up into say 3 days each, 2 or 3 days each, and actually using the weekends kind of do a second draft so it's actually all ready for week 10. Obviously, the quicker that you get them done before Christmas will give you extra time. Let's have a look here, extra time to possibly, let's say by week 8 or week 9, you've got the essays possibly written. So all those essays are written. You may have another week to do your research for possibly an essay that you have to get, or 2 essays that you have to get in by week 1 of the kind of the spring term, of the Lent term. So, with the holidays coming up, most of us at university get, say, usually 3 or 4 weeks. I would actually again do some more research the first week of my holidays, and the last 2 weeks I would actually get to writing these essays. Say first draft, second draft, and then I would actually have it all ready by week 1 when I hand it in. So this is kind of normal planning, and then you could do exactly the same thing for the Lent term. What's also important with this is that you can actually put in other things that you have to do apart from essays. So maybe by week 5 you've got to have a project in, by week 3 or 4 you may have another project or a presentation that you have to get in. You can put all these things into the Snake. The great thing about it is obviously the more often you see it, the more often it kind of kicks you off to get the work done, to prepare the work, and you can see some form of structure beginning to emerge. Now what I'm beginning to notice with the students that I've worked with is that their marks have obviously gone up because they haven't done it all at last minute. They've actually been able to pre-plan all their work. Now what's also good with this is that if we're going to bring into place the idea of exam preparation, most of the exams obviously begin in the summer term. For some students they will begin in week 1, depending obviously on what year you are within university. If you could get most of your work, essays, both which are due in for a week of the summer term as well, by let's say week 9 or week 10, again it's planning, because hopefully you will know the titles that you have to get in the early part of the Lent term. Then this gives you 4 weeks or less of Easter, as well as time in the summer term to do your exams. Now what's important with here is that the more time you have before term starts, before the holiday starts, is that the more time you actually have to do possibly some of this exam preparation before the holidays. So you can include say 1 or 2 weeks into the 3 or 4 weeks of the holidays. Now what I find, and I'll be doing this later on in another session, I use mind mapping, Tony Buzan's mind mapping, plus other techniques to help my memory. But I will actually do my mind map and my other prep 1 exam a week. So let's say for example I've got 4 exams. Let's say I use week 10. So I would do, let's say I've got exam A, the next week is B, C, D. I would prepare all my research, all my maps, all my other kind of techniques that I've gathered for remembering the data for the exams, and then I start all over again. I go back A, B, C, D, depending obviously on what exam I've got first. More fresh my mind is. Now the idea with this again is I can see I've planned my exams ahead of time. I would actually plan this. I would possibly plan this even before Christmas. I would see what I've got coming up. I would possibly find out when essays have to be in by the Lent term, and when possibly any essays have to be in by the summer term. So that's it really. Again, as we said up here, any other things you have to do, let's say for example, you have to get a proposal in for a dissertation, let's say sometime in the summer term for the following year, then you can put in your proposal, etc, etc, etc. Basically, this is a kind of a multitask type of snake that can be used for almost anything.